Andy, we're both wearing red and white t-shirts or white with red shirts on. You've got the Pump Club one. I've got my Charlotte Carolina Chaos Lacrosse Club one on. Pump Club's working out pretty good, huh?
Yeah, this is the one of the founding member shirts, Dave. Very honored to have this on. It's a limited edition shirt, right? Not for sale. You could be there in the beginning, Dave, and so very glad to have that. Yeah, the Pump Club's doing well. The Pump Club's doing well. It's gotten to the point where there's so much good content I can't even keep up with it. I mean, there's articles every day on fitness and nutrition. It really expounds upon the newsletter and just a lot of community back and forth and collaboration. So it's good to see, Dave. Good to see.
Yeah, I always appreciate the Arnold and like the pumping iron Arnold.
Yeah.
Like I think it was like it's almost like surreal looking at him now, or like looking at what he used to look like and seeing how big he was and how just like almost like cartoonish character wise. He's on your shirt and it just kind of reminded me of that a little of that stuff. So.
Yeah, I mean, he was unbelievable. I mean, what he looked like back in his prime in his Olympia days, it was just crazy.
Yeah, I mean the whole like weightlifting like as a like Mr. Olympian and all this other stuff, like where they're in the gym all day long. You
Yeah,
sit there and you're like, how can you be in the gym that long? Like, what are you doing that long? Like, how much rest is in between your sets and stuff? I'm lucky if I get 30 minutes in the gym, and yet they were there all day. So,
yeah.
but that was their job there. So.
Well, that's my hope, Dave. My hope is eventually you and I are just doing this podcast and I'm in the gym. That's my intent. That's my intent. We'll see if it works out that way.
We can all aspire to do that. So, Andy, so let's start with a little sports check-in. I'll go first because I'm hosting. I
Sure.
lead this effort, so I'm just going to go first. I'm selfish like that. So, fun times in the Pounder household. My daughter's team last night won their state semifinal game against one of their, I guess, heated rivals. And they're going to the state final. So exciting news for girls lacrosse here in the Pounder household. And my daughter was also like recognized in Charlotte for she was nominated for Player of the Week. I think there's 8 different girls there for Player of the Week, and I swear it's kind of it's kind of funny is you can go in and vote, right? And so like first thing in the morning I go in and the vote probably like 5:30. The other like the number one girl's got like 500, 600 votes already. Everyone else is like in the 20s or something.
Yeah.
I swear like some of these there's some high school kid there that goes, I've cracked the algorithm. I'm gonna I'm gonna because you can vote as much as you like. He's like, so I'm gonna vote, somebody every 3 minutes or something. And that the girl won by is something stupid, like 800 votes. Um,
She's got the high school lacrosse bot casting votes for her.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, anyways, it was a fun night though. Playing your rival. It's funny because Zoe's team, Charlotte Catholic, is one of the top lacrosse schools in the state, and they've been that way for a couple of years now. They have a really good coach, and um, but this year they started off really rough because they went to the state final last year and they lost to Cardinal Gibbons, a team from like the Raleigh area, I think. But they lost that game, and then they lost a lot of their top scores from last year. And they started off really, it was rough. I was like, wow, they're not going to win many games. So this is going to be a take back, and a lot of the teams that they had beaten pretty good in the years past were now giving it to them a little bit. And so, but they kept working their way through it. They kept working their way through it. And the girls that were now playing more got more visibility and they started getting more repetitions and the coach started adjusting things a little bit, which is what good coaches should do. And here you have it. They lost to the team that they beat last night by like eight goals earlier in the year, and then they came back and they won it. They played it close the whole game and they pulled it out. And my daughter has been a lot of very aggressive this year, so she's done really well. But the whole team played great yesterday, and so we're excited. So this weekend we're going to be, I think, in Cary, North Carolina, watching the state championship. Fun time. So
That's
that's
awesome.
my personal story, Andy. So
Yeah, well, congratulations to you and your family, Dave. I mean, it's super. I think one of the super things about youth sports and high school sports especially is there's always those kids that are they've been playing sports since they were 3. They're just fantastic at it. They're on the state, teams. But you have so many other kids that are, you know, unseen gems. And when they get a chance to perform, some kids can really step up and excel. And I think just seeing that maturation in those kids and the opportunity being given by a good coach to trust in their team and find ways to help them succeed, and then to see them go out there and have that kind of success, I always think it's just awesome. I think it's just so exciting, and it's such a memory, for your daughter that she's building, going to states twice in a row. This year being much more involved. Like that's just such a powerful memory and motivator. I mean, the impact of high school football and powerlifting for me was such a defining part of building me into who I am today, because I really was able to find new things out about myself through that process. And I think there's just a lot of merit in being involved in athletics of some kind, finding ways to grow, and really happy for you and your daughter. And Dave, you guys are doing something good down there in the Pounder household. Your three oldest kids here, all lacrosse competitors. So good on you.
Yeah, and my youngest one is a karate master, so she's like one step away from being black belt recommended, which is a whole nother thing. I don't give me. I'm just gonna tell you, like my oldest son was baseball and basketball. I knew stuff about that, right?
Yeah,
Lacrosse I had no idea about, like and so even boys to girls lacrosse, no idea about,
yeah,
like it's
yeah.
a completely different game. And then my youngest one does karate, and I'm like, yep, no idea about it. Does it look colorful belts? Sounds good. And so but it's fun. And like I give a lot of them credit, and look, the coaching is so important on all these things, because
Yeah.
it was a rough start. This coach had never really failed in, either. And so she had to adjust and make adjustments. And I think it was a really good tribute to this team. So I'm excited there, Annie. But that was my sports check-in. You got your own sports check-in. Big news on the Detroit Lions front, Andy.
Big news, Dave. The Lions were aggressively working with their stars to lock down key players, Penei Sewell, Elmo and Ross St. Brown. Right before the draft, they both signed big contracts. And then the Lions have a lot of their roster in place, at least for this coming season. Some players well beyond that. But they locked those guys into multi-year contracts, along with extending their GM and coach, really, building the core of the team. But you can't win in the NFL without a quarterback. And Jared Goff came to the Lions, thrown out in Los Angeles, came to Detroit, played behind a good line, good coaching, great offensive coordinator, and just really performed at a very high level last year. Everybody felt like there was going to be a contract signed. He had another year on his contract, and you get into that Kirk Cousins franchise tag mess of a game that nobody really wants, right? So, the Lions wanted to extend him. It's going to be a lot of money, but you can't win without a quarterback. The Lions came together, just signed him 2 days ago, $170 million guaranteed over 4 years, Dave, up to $212 million on the contract, making him the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL. The second best quarterback in the NFL? Probably not. But that's not how the market works. So really exciting for the Lions to lock in Jared Goff. And really at this point, I was saying yesterday on Threads, the owner, Sheila Hamp, Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, these superstar players, from the quarterback to the receivers to so many other core parts of the team, they're genuinely going for it in Detroit in a way that I've never seen in my lifetime, and they're committing to 3-4 years of aggressively pursuing this together, and they're going to sink or swim together. So I love seeing it. I think there's still some free agents out there that could complement the team, but Detroit is genuinely making a run to the Super Bowl, and I'm excited to see them play in New Orleans next year.
Yeah, they're look, windows are small in professional sports these days. I think you have a 3 or 4 year period.
Yeah.
The Lions, to their credit, look, they could go in and they could not extend golf, and they could have something, you know, some conflict emerge in this relationship, and golf doesn't come back as their quarterback, and then who do they get to be quarterback with such talented wide receivers, great running backs, good line, good defense? That's such a vital position. And if you don't have that locked down, look, is Jared Goff the second best quarterback? Is he the top 5 quarterback? I'd probably say no, but is he a top 10 quarterback? Of course he is. And I think that's what you need in this league to be successful. And I think what I'm starting to see a lot more on some of these teams is when you have that window, you've got to give those contracts out. We're
Yeah.
seeing it in baseball. Like when they recognize a player is good early, hey, give them that 8-year contract. Yeah, you may pay a lot today, but in the year 8, you're going to be getting a bargain on those guys. And you can't look at NFL money either as real money. I mean, 4 years, 212 million. There's so many loopholes in there. It makes it like a 2-year or 2.5 year or a 3-year contract where you can get out after the 4th year. I think it's smart for the Lions. I think especially when the Green Bay is going to be much better this year. Chicago is going to be likely better than they were this year. This year coming up, that's a tough division. Minnesota is going to be solid. They're not going to be an easy out. That's going to be a tough division, and you got to reward your people, cut out the drama, and go for it. And I applaud the Lions on this front. So good job by you guys, Andy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I had a lot to do with it really, and I really feel like it was, my support of the Lions and the Threads community cheering on, One Pride that really made Jared feel like he had to sign this contract. So I'll take the credit for it, Dave. I'll take the credit for
As you should. You and your T-shirt from last weekend.
it.
So. Um, all right. Anything else on the Lions front, Andy? Anything else you're excited about going into like this? We're getting into this period now. It's a couple dry months, but then training camp start in July. I mean,
Hey, well, I mean, I could talk for hours on lines. I mean, later tonight, the NFL, schedule reveal. So I'm excited to see, when the Lions are playing who and where. But beyond that, just to wrap up the sports piece, Dave, let's bring it together. Just Zed Williams, Whipsnake from the
yeah,
PLL, now playing with the Buffalo Bills. Guy's a former league MVP, champion in the PLL, New York native. Now getting a chance to play linebacker for the Buffalo Bills. Always fun to see when sports athletes can cross over like that. Back from the days, when we were young and you had stars doing that. Even guys like Michael Jordan, tried it, but you some really doing it successfully, playing baseball and football. Fun to see this happening. So nice to see professional lacrosse star have a chance to come and play football. Pretty cool to see it happen.
yeah. What's interesting about this story is like you've seen so like again, lacrosse and football are natural, right? Because lacrosse is a spring sport, football's a fall sport. You can do both, and you still have a recovery season in between some of those areas to get better. The interesting thing about Zed Williams is like where we've seen some of these athletes transition from lacrosse and football, it's generally been good like lacrosse players that were also really good at football, and then they start playing high level football. Zed Williams is like the top of the league for the lacrosse world. I mean, you said he was an MVP. I mean, he's done a lot of great things. He's amazing. He plays lacrosse like one of the top players in the world, and now he's going to play football. I think
Yeah,
that's crazy. Unfortunately, I also think it speaks a little bit about where the state of lacrosse still is, as much as it is becoming bigger and bigger with the PLL. It's still not quite there that gives somebody that full-time lacrosse life where they don't have to do something else. Preferably you'd rather not Zed Williams get hurt and then damage his lacrosse profession. But it is what it is. But a great player, yeah, really great stuff there too, Andy. So
yeah, yeah. Fun to see for sure. And I mean, just it's always fun to see the leagues, whether it's the NFL or the NBA, try and find this hidden talent in other leagues, other countries. Every now and again, John Thompson at Georgetown used to be great at this when we were growing up, Dave, right? He goes out looking and he comes back with Dikembe Mutombo, and other just stellar performers. So I really like seeing this kind of thing happening in sports leagues, professional, college. I think it's fun to find these untapped resources and see if they can perform in a sport. So pretty cool. But I thought it was a nice way to put a bow on the lax
yeah.
football convo. So you're welcome.
All right. Well, let's. Yeah. Thank you, Andy. Thank you. I need all the help I can get on these things, and I definitely appreciate all that. Andy, let's talk. Let's move to our next topic. Going to somewhat in that sports world too, but it's more of I guess, the workout mode. I guess you can say. Andy, you're a fan of the walking treadmill and at your desk type of thing. Well, the Mayo Clinic did such a study, and they found, I think that it, generally speaking, worked pretty good. Standing versus walking, sitting versus standing. Look, I mean, if you're standing up, if you're doing walking more, hey, here's the science. It's better than sitting on your ass on the couch watching TV, stuffing your face with Doritos. right?
Yeah,
I mean, I love Doritos,
I
but
do too. Yeah.
but if you can be doing standing and if you can be walking while at your desk, hey, there's some health benefits to that, Andy. How do you feel? Do you feel like validated?
Well, we come right back to that, but since you brought up Doritos, Dave, let me ask you a quick question here. Are you a Takis fan? Have you heard Takis?
What? Oh, I am not. It's a little too much for me.
Oh man, I tell you what. This is going completely off into nowhere, but when I was deployed in Afghanistan, we were Navy, under Navy command. That's a whole nother story. Working for a Navy submariner in the middle of Afghanistan, whole nother conversation. But we had a lot of Navy personnel, including corpsmen, who served as our medical team. And one of our young corpsmen got me turned on to just pouring sriracha directly onto your Doritos and eating them like one at a time. And it was insanely hot and delicious, and I loved it. And so I was doing that for a while. And I got back home, like I would just sit there, like I could crush half a bag of Doritos just pouring. I mean, going through a bottle of sriracha, crushing it. Then we found Takis, and Dave, I could crush a whole bag of those things. Fortunately, I have some self-discipline. I don't do that often. I haven't done it in a long time actually, but man, they are so good, so good. But that's neither here nor there. That's not where we were. So on the walking desk. So years ago, my wife got me a standing desk. I wanted it. She got it for me. I'm standing at it right now as we speak. I love it. I love working on it. I feel much better standing than sitting. I don't sit until maybe the 10th 11th hour of the workday usually, except for about an hour in the morning, and I really have enjoyed it. And then a few years ago, I was getting frustrated because I wasn't getting my cardio in the way I wanted. I was lifting, but I wasn't getting my cardio in, and I was going nuts, and I was complaining about it, and whining about it, and I was getting frustrated, and I was like, okay, I've either got to shut up and spare my family all this whining, or do something about it. And so I got a desk treadmill, and I started using it, and I loved it. And I burned through the first one in like 6 months. I burnt the motor out. I'm a bigger guy, was going pretty fast on it, and just killed it. So I got a new one. I started using that, and was using it every day, much to the chagrin of everyone that I worked with because they had to talk to me while I was walking, which made everybody nauseous, I think, kind of selfish of me, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. And I'll say that when I got my cancer diagnosis last April, I just mentally, that was the one thing I couldn't do. I was still going out and lifting. I was still going out and running. I could not get myself to walk on the treadmill. Just mentally, there was a block, and I really just fell off of it. I couldn't do it. And so just last week, I finally plugged it back in and started walking again, and remembered how much I really enjoyed it, and find value in it, both from a physical standpoint, but also it helps me really focus. And so it really is something I strongly recommend to folks that have the opportunity to do it. But I always sort of question the like how much are we getting out of this, right? Like you're not fully walking, your arms aren't swinging. It's not like being outside. So am I getting work out of it? So I found this study that you mentioned. It was actually from last year. I was trying to sort of look at, is there value in this? Turns out there is. Turns out there is. Depending on how fast you're walking, and obviously depending on how much you weigh, affects your caloric burn, per hour. But for a guy that's my size, walking at about a 2.5 miles per hour pace, you can still type and do all the things you might be doing while you work without spilling coffee on yourself, which I may or may not have done. I can blow through 200 250 calories an hour, and I'm just working, right? I'm just in there working, walking. Hey, you do that over 3 or 4 hours, that's 750, that's 1,000 calories, out of your body, and it's not impeding anything. It's not cutting into your time. It's not doing anything. So I love it. And if somebody's listening, I strongly recommend the stand desk, better than sitting. And if you can, strongly recommend the desk treadmill, because it's easy money, Dave. It's easy workout, easy calories, and it helps you really focus. What you're doing now. Unlike me, try not to spill your coffee and smoothie drinks all over your computer. Not that I've done that, but I've gotten pretty close. But yeah, I really enjoy it. I strongly recommend it. I was glad to see that in the study. It's still sort of new math on solving that riddle of exactly what your caloric burn is, but it's good. It's good.
Yeah, to your point, the study found that if you're walking at a minimum 1 mile per hour speed, it'll burn 5 times as many calories per hour. And walking 2.5, as you said, you can burn nearly 10 times as much, with the average burn between 170 to 240 calories per hour. And to your point, Andy, like, look, effective weight loss is not the latest diet fad and all this other stuff. Look, it comes down to simple caloric intake. Like you want to be at a caloric deficit, and there's some natural things that you burn all the time, and you need certain number of calories to live, right? You need to sustain yourself. But other than that, Andy, I mean, the bottom line is much like Arnold's Pump Club, sitting on your butt is not going to get you anything. I mean, if you even start with 15 minutes a day and move that up to 30 minutes, and if you're able to get in an hour of just brisk walking
Yeah.
around your neighborhood, get up and as opposed to sitting down, you're just going to be healthier at the end of the day. And I think that's what we're all trying to look for. How do we get that? Too often, though, we follow the latest fad where I can lose 20 pounds and get ready for my summer body and all that stuff. But that's not sustainable over the long term. And study after study has found that. And so stuff like this, where you're constantly moving and not sitting, I think it's great. I just struggle. I think one, I'm not a big standing desk person. And then just walking and typing seems like it could be a little bit challenging. But you say you swear by it, huh? So
I do. So on the standing, it's an adjustment. So when I first started the stand desk, I have an adjustable desk. I would stand for an hour and sit most of the rest of the day, and then I'd stand for 2 hours. I'd stand for a second hour. It got to the point where I wasn't even comfortable sitting, and so I just stopped. It wasn't like a decision I made. I was like, I'm more comfortable standing. And again, it helped. Besides the physical aspect, just being on my feet just helps me focus mentally, which I really value. So it is an adjustment, but it's one of those things that if you start doing it, you find it becomes it becomes something you want to do. So, but it's a transition. On the walking, I think it definitely is about maintaining a speed that you can be functional. I used to try and walk faster, used to try and get to 3.5 miles an hour, which realistically it becomes a little bit harder to type and really focus because you're starting to go a little bit too fast, at least for me at that speed. But I can sustain 2.5 miles per hour over several hours, and it doesn't affect my work. It actually, like I said, it helps me actually focus. This takes away my other distractions, and I just lock into my work. And so far have not spilled my hot coffee, which, as you may know, Dave, I drink about 20 cups a day. So there's constantly hot coffee in my hand. So it works. It works. Again, strongly recommend it. It's an adjustment, but it's one of the things I think people, give it a try and commit to really trying. They'll find that it's a habit forming and a healthy habit.
3.5 miles per hour, that'd be kind of tough. I definitely would be spilling my drink all
Yeah,
over.
yeah, that was a little excessive. So I've kept it now. 2.5 is my speed, and I like it. It's fast. If when I'm on a call, or I try and slow down to try and be respectful, I'm not completely obnoxious to whoever I'm talking with, but for when you're not discussing things with other people and just jamming away at your work, it's a manageable pace. But like everything, you get there, right? You build up to it. So
All
didn't
right.
didn't know I was gonna go that long on that. Sorry for that, Dave. But again, for those that are interested, it's a strong recommend.
You said it the other day, Andy, with the Seinfeld podcast, where we go, and here it is. As
A
much as
podcast about nothing. I love
yeah,
it. I love it. Yeah.
podcast about nothing. So, all right, Andy, let's conclude our nothingness with a discussion of politics. Again,
Boo,
yeah, not much
boo.
going on this front, other than I want to bring into RFK Jr. Talking about his ballot, his opportunity to get on the ballot. He's doing pretty well overall.
Yeah.
He beat expectations in Texas. He got double the amount of signatures needed for registered voters there. It looks like they're now on the ballot in 4 states. They've got 9 more in the queue ready to get submitted in those states. So bring that up to 13 states, and they're doing 29 others. Andy, I'm not great in math, but that would tell me they're still not at 50 states. It doesn't look like they're going to get on the ballot on all 50 states. Unlike some other third parties, the Libertarian Party is on at all 50 states. They have as much as they don't necessarily have their fringe national party opportunity. They do have a really good grassroots movement at the local level on the Libertarian Party. But RFK, he's going to go in with, I'll get on as many states as I can and see where we go from here. But I don't know what it's going to mean in the long term, other than he's going to be a disruptor. He's trying to get Trump to debate at the Libertarian Convention. Look, we'll see, right?
Yeah, we said it before, we're saying again, RFK Jr. is a very flawed candidate, right? But my interest in him is more the idea of giving Americans choice, and I like that idea. And you said it, Dave, for libertarians, for the Green Party, there's a lot of grassroots support, there's prior elections. So ballot access is much easier, but ballot access is it's a big issue. For those who aren't familiar with it, it's a tactic used by the two main parties to basically not give Americans more choice at the federal level, the state level. It's very hard to get on the ballot. You have to collect a lot of signatures, which takes a lot of time, a lot of folks on the ground, and mathematically, dollars wise, it works out to being pretty expensive per signature. It's just really hard to do. And that's purposeful to limit competition, the most un-American thing. So RFK Jr., he's vowed to get on the ballot in all 50 states. And unlike other third-party candidates, he has both name recognition, he has the financial means in his campaign, and he has a lot of folks that want that option. And he's doing really well to get ballot access. Now, again, there's still the possibility that he may pursue the Libertarian Party nomination. That would automatically get him on the ballot. But it looks like he's going to pursue his independent track. And listen, if he can get on the ballot in all 50 states, yes. But even the most competitive states, the battleground states, and some of the bigger states, he gives himself a chance. And he's vowed to have that path available so that people can vote for him. And realistically, he has a way to become president, theoretically, get the electoral count needed. I think he could do it because of those factors that I just mentioned. So it's interesting to see it play out. You mentioned the LP convention. That's a whole other conversation we can get into another time if we want. But it's interesting to see. And again, I think the reason he's getting these massive numbers of support, like in Texas, where he doubled the required number, is because people want an option. People want a choice. And so, again, not endorsing RFK Jr. by any means, but totally endorsing third, fourth, fifth option so Americans can go to vote in November and choose their most preferred candidate, not just the person they don't want to vote for. And what you see in the polls right now, a lot of RFK Jr. supporters are actual RFK Jr. supporters. They're not just voting against Biden or just voting against Trump. They're saying, no, I choose this guy. Like, I want him to be president. Again, not endorsing that belief, just saying it's good to see people getting excited and voting positively versus saying, oh, I hate Biden. Oh, I hate Trump. I must vote for this other guy in the most important election in my lifetime. That's a terrible way for us to do politics. It's what the Republicans and Democrats want. Third parties are great. Fourth and fifth options are even greater. So in that sense, I'm excited for RFK Jr. It's good to see, Dave. It's good to see.
Yeah, it will be something we continue to track as we go into this period of time. I have also heard some rumors about whether Nikki Haley might actually be Trump's vice presidential pick. This is going to be a disaster. I think if it is, I would lose a lot for Haley if that happens. But with RFK Jr., this is the doldrums of the season, right? The primaries are over. They're getting ready for the convention. The biggest news out on the politics front is just Trump's continued hush money trial. So I guess we'll see where that goes as we get into the conventions, which I'm still eagerly anticipating what's going to happen at the conventions this year. But I think both parties are set, and then you've got RFK and some of the other ones out there. So should make for an exciting time, Andy. Should make for
It
an
will.
exciting time.
Well, on the Nikki Haley piece, Dave, I'll say this. I'll say one, I would also completely lose respect for her if she took that vice presidential nomination. But there is precedent for that. Where you've seen, for example, with Reagan and Bush, they were butting heads and clashing heavily going to that 1980 election. Exchanging names for each other. It was not friendly, but came together to win, and it served both men well. Reagan served 2 terms. Bush went on to become president after him. Almost won a second term, if not for President Clinton just being a much more appealing candidate and some bad choices on Bush's part. But it happens, right? They go all at it in the primaries. They come together, for America, Dave. So it's not unbelievable to think that there could be a Trump-Haley alignment. I would barf, on my own feet, just to see that happen. But it could happen. So it'll be interesting to see what plays out. But you've already made me nauseous this morning talking presidential politics. So maybe we have to stop before we actually get sick.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good place to. We don't want you getting sick, Andy. I mean, that'd be pretty bad. So, a good place to wrap up there, Andy. We've got one more show this week, so we'll look forward to Friday, Andy, and catching up on that front. We've still got some other topics we can go into, as always, and of course, we're at the whatever the news may bring up between now and then. I'm sure you'll be filling my Slack box, Andy. So. All right, Andy. With that. I'll catch up with you next time.